Well, hey there, you're on the internet. I'm finally off hardcore painkillers, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Now, today's ink was provided by the wonderful, mysterious benefactor. It's by Levenger's. Came in the sample pack, where, I must remind you, you get one cartridge of each color, except for cobalt blue and raven black, and that consists of about half a milliliter of ink. So, yeah, not a lot to work with, but yeah. Today's ink is Amethyst, which, as this will probably tell you, is sort of their lighter, more standard purple. Regal is sort of more of a dark, rich, royal purple. But yeah, it's, all the tests were done in this Knox Avicenna in broad. And only this pen, because you only have one cartridge. And I thought I'd enjoy the color, and this is a pen that I enjoy, so I thought it would make it fun to write with. But again, this was one of the earlier tests, so I still hadn't learned just how little ink is in a cartridge. Hadn't fully grasped it. And so I sort of, once again, was enjoying it, and then was like, oh, I have to put this away and not use it so that I still have enough ink to do my tests. So it was sitting in the pen for about a week. But something very unusual happened that you'll see in the test. It was like suddenly it had become severely undersaturated. That is one of the things I like about Levenger's inks, that they tend to have a lot of saturation. There's a lot of ink in that ink. It's not watery. But for some reason, after I let it sit for a week, it was like somebody had gone in and stolen some of the ink out of the ink. So yeah, you might be able to see it in the test. I mean, this stuff was so saturated that even here you get a teeny bit of sheen around the top of these chromatography tests. If my camera would ever focus on what I want it to. Come on. But yeah, anyways, let's look at chromatography. As you can probably see, there's a lot of these Levenger inks have this blue base to them. You can see where the initial drop was put, and then there's that light blue. It goes into a nice sort of, I don't know, happy, for lack of a better word, Easter purple, and then into sort of a more rich standard purple. And here I let it dry, which is not how you're supposed to do it, but the dot got a little bit darker, and this purple that sort of got pushed up to the top, it was like it was lagging behind and didn't want to go. But yeah. So, paper test. Top down to density, Clairefontaine, 90 grams per square meter. Try and hold this still. Now, when I say that it looks undersaturated, this is probably, I mean, it's not something I can convey because I don't have any of the stuff from before. But what's funny is, so right at the beginning, it's very saturated. But then once you get down here, you might be able to actually see it. There's this progression where it's almost like it becomes thinner and thinner. But what's also interesting is, you might be able to see it, there's a couple of little feathers up there. So that's really weird. But yeah, so 6 seconds to dry. One of the things I liked about this was even when it lost some of that saturation somehow, it still stayed this very vibrant purple. And I was kind of enjoying it. But yeah, I mean, at first, when it wrote on here, it had sheen. I mean, it sheened on Clairefontaine. It was great. And it was very well behaved. There was no bleed, no feather, no spread. There's still no real bleed, feather, spread. Except for the weird things up at the top. Very well behaved in that regard. Yeah, it washed away pretty easily, though. You can see patches of where it was initially, and it dyed the page, but yeah. Next up is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter. Where, unlike last time, I don't have this thing up at the top, but here you might be able to see, I mean, it's still very vibrant, right? I mean, it's a bright, jolly purple. You do get a little, you do get some shading. Here it took 6 seconds to dry, but yeah, there's no bleed, no feather, no spread, none of that, but there used to be sheen, because before I put it aside to do the test, I wrote a letter to someone on some Rhodia and there was sheen. Here there is no sheen. Weird. Yeah. Again, water test isn't great. Kind of dyed the page. It's pretty patchy what remains. It would not be easy to recover. Next up is Tomoe River Paper, which usually really brings out sheen. And before, when I was sort of like playing around with it before I put it aside, it was like pure sheen. And what was interesting, it was almost like a gold, but like an orangey gold sheen, which was such a lovely contrast to the purple. Diamine grape sheens a lot, but that sheen is green, so there was something kind of interesting about that. But yeah, here Tomoe River does tend to bring out shading, and here you certainly do get a peek at that. 7 seconds to dry. A broad nib on Tomoe River paper, I'll take that any day of the week. So here, like, one of the things that Levenger's inks claim is, like, quick drying or something. Like, where is it? Oh, yeah, light, fast, quick drying. The thing is, most of my tests, these inks have not been quick drying, but yes, here it was, so that was nice. No bleed, no feather, no spread, but since this this paper is very thin, you know, echo, it's always a personal thing, but it wouldn't bother me. But if you are very sensitive to it, something to be aware of. Also, if it were as saturated as it used to be, it might provide more echo, but still. Yeah. Tomoe River loves to let ink slide away when you add more water, and that definitely happened here. Some of it's completely gone. The camera's picking it up just a tiny bit more than my eye naturally can. A lot of it washed away. It did dye the page, but... Now, I know using a broad nib on cheap paper is not fair. However, this was the pen that I put the ink in, so I apologize. Yeah, this is terrible, awful 20-pound copier paper. It soaked into the pen almost immediately, so there was no smearing in the smear test. But you also lose any barest hint of shading whatsoever. And I said, considering the broad nib and this paper, which is usually so awful, there's impressively little bleed. Which is true. It only fully comes through to the other side along the edge, which makes me think it's something having to do with the pressing process. You do have some very near show-through. It's very extreme echo. But again, this is the world's worst copier paper, and it's a broad nib, so... There is some spread. The line does get a bit broader. There are some feathers, but it's not like I was expecting before. I was expecting explosive feathers. You really don't get that. So that's kind of nice. This water test is kind of amazing. You do have that like almost blue at the center with the, you know, pastel purple shooting off. But it almost looks like you're trying to read a 3D, one of those old, you know, blue and red 3D tests without the 3D glasses. It's a little dizzying. It did kind of feather and explode. It would not be the easiest thing in the world to recover. Next is Mead Notebook Paper, which is even thinner than the copier paper. 2.5 seconds to dry, but here you retain, I don't know, it's like maybe 2% of the shading, whereas the copier paper had absolutely none. So, yeah, here, I mean, and again, it was sort of like the longer I went into the test, the more undersaturated it seemed to become. I don't know what was happening, but yeah, it took on kind of a woolly texture. I mean, if you look at saturated, you can see that there actually are some feathers. It's not great. This paper absolutely hates water, so yeah, it seriously dyed the page. It feathered, it exploded. It all depends on your personal level of determination. If you had to recover something from this, maybe you could. Would it be fun? I doubt it. Now, because this paper is so thin, you do get some very extreme show-through, but you don't really get anything fully coming to the other side, even in the scribble. Except right here along the edge, but that makes me think it has something to do with how the paper was made, kind of like with the copier paper. Now, last but not least, is Moleskine notebook paper, where here you can actually kind of see how thin this ink looks. See? It actually starts to look thin, which is weird. You do retain some shading, which is rather odd. It took 5 seconds to dry, which I cannot explain. I don't even know how that happened. I think I like was resting the pen, or you know, like it was probably just me being an idiot. Of course it was me being an idiot, it's not the paper's fault, but whatever. So there is a good bit of spread, there is some feathering, and it's not great. This paper is awful, so using a broad nib is asking for trouble, and trouble is exactly what I got. Okay, that doesn't count, but yeah, it came through. I don't, the thing is I can't say how it would do when it was fresh or fully saturated or in a finer nib, but yeah, here you go. And I don't know if this will show up, but like, I don't know, mixing this ink and this paper with water did something very strange. But yeah, dyed the page, feathered, it exploded. It's very patchy. I don't know if you could recover that, but So, there you go. There's Levenger's Amethyst. It's an amazingly vibrant purple, even when it mysteriously goes very thin. When it's fresh, it sheened like crazy, and it had a very beautiful kind of a golden orange sheen. It didn't today, or when I did the test, but yeah. For your consideration from the Triple N Network, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching. Bye.